Welcome to Fearless Females, where ambition meets resilience. Meet your guide, Lorie Jones, owner of Fearless Financial Advisors. Join her and remarkable women executives as they uncover the triumphs and transformative moments shaping extraordinary careers. Ready to be fearless? Let the journey begin.
Good morning, Fearless Females. So over the last 3 or 4 months, I've been really trying hard to grow the listenership here on Fearless Females. I feel like these women have such incredible stories, and I just can't do that without your help. If you don't mind going on and following the podcast on the different platforms, maybe giving me a really great rating, I know that that pushes me higher in the rankings. And if you've listened to an episode that's really spoken to you, make a comment or give a 5-star rating or something that kind of helps push this podcast up. And the only reason is because I feel like these women's stories have really changed my life. As I've listened to them, I've seen their courage, I've seen their resilience, and it makes a difference. It makes an impact in my life. And I would really like to see it make an impact in many people's lives. So if you don't mind doing that for me, I would really appreciate it. So today I'm speaking with Natalya. And the thing that most struck me about our interview is she was talking a little bit about, like, we all have days that we don't like our image in the mirror. We'll have days where we're beating ourselves up on a business decision or losing money or losing a client. And it's okay to have that. She says, I think that part of healing is allowing yourself to grieve, allowing yourself to accept the fact that you're not perfect and you're never going to be. And I had a really strong reaction to this. I was like, yeah, but that's so hard. Like I get this clenched stomach thinking about making those kinds of mistakes. And I start telling myself all the ways that I messed up. And I think she said something really insightful. She said, it's okay to have moments where you're just like, I really messed up and that sucks. But if it were your little sister, would you be mean to her about this? And I thought, well, gosh, no, if it was my little sister, like I would be building her up and telling her good things. And it really made me kind of step back and take a look at the message I was giving myself. Because you can acknowledge that, hey, you messed up, this didn't go as great as you want, but beating yourself up for it and being mean to yourself, like, think a little bit. Would you beat somebody else up like that? So I loved that thought, and I really have kind of tried to incorporate that. I am so excited to get to speak to Natalya. I hope you enjoy. Let's get started. Good morning, Fearless Females. I'm so excited to have you again today. Today we are talking with Natalya Borakowski. She is a naturopathic physician with UnveilYou, and I'm so excited to get this conversation started. Thank you so much for joining us today.
Yes, thank you for having me, Lorie. It's a pleasure.
So my first question, I say is always an easy one, but sometimes it's not so easy picking your favorite book. What is your favorite?
So yes, we started kind of chatting behind the scenes before we play record. So that's why Lorie said it's not that easy. Because to me, it's not easy. I read a lot of books. I probably have more books in my office at home than average American. And I will just tell you the latest book I'm currently reading and why it's such an important book to me. Title of the book is The Courage to Be Disliked. It's by 2 Japanese authors, and I'm not going to attempt to pronounce the names because I'm probably going to mingle it, but it is a bestseller. So if you guys Google it, you'll definitely find it. I stumbled upon that book by complete accident. My husband was watching something on TV, and they were interviewing this really famous bicycle rider. And then I saw the book on the background and the title, The Courage to Be Disliked, it's really captured me. So I'm thinking, oh, I wonder what that is. Because me, as I'm sure a lot of people can relate, I'm a big pleaser. It's extremely difficult for me to say no to people. So I had to learn, what is this all about? So the book is based on philosophy of psychologist, German psychologist Adler, and he lived at the same time as Freud. But his philosophy approach to psychology is completely opposite from Freud. So when Freud tells us all the misfortunes and things that the way we think, the way we make decisions as adults all come from our childhood, Adler says, yes, terrible things happen to a lot of wonderful people, but your past doesn't define you. You are what you are now, and you're in charge of your life. You can make the best decisions for yourself. So that's really what drove me to the book. The book is a really treasure trove for anyone who is still in a path of growth, still in the path of evolving into a better adult, a better human. I almost finished reading it, but I bet you I'll be coming back and rereading several pages over and over again, highlighting it. Yeah, highly recommend.
Oh, I love that idea because I too am a people pleaser, and I would love to, how to like set those boundaries, how to say no to things that just kind of don't align with my path, but not feel guilty or bad or like I'm not doing everything I could do. I think with women, truly, it kind of leads to burnout if you end up, trying to people please your way through life.
Absolutely. Absolutely. And I think that even the most powerful, fearless females, we really often find ourselves in a kind of a corner of our own commitments. And we feel like we're in the cage and we just can't get out of this just because we put ourselves there, just trying to be the best, trying to please everybody. It's exhausting. 100%.
Yeah, it is. I'm actually, I have a huge stack by my bedside table of all these books that have been recommended, but
Uh-huh.
I'm going to put that one at the top because I really want to read it. So I'm so
Yeah, you
excited that
should.
you mentioned it.
You should just at least go through a couple pages. Like it's written as a dialogue. That's another thing that makes it so fascinating. It's a dialogue by two males, actually, young boy, or like we'll say adolescent boy, and a philosopher, an elder. So he comes to him with all these questions about life, and everything there is so relatable. There's a lot of questions about parenting, a lot of questions about anxiety, like overall mental health, the way we perceive a future and a past, like explanation of inferiority and superiority complex. And it's not
Mhm.
necessarily means anything to do with bullying. Like we all exhibit the parts of it. So a very
Mhm.
fascinating book. Yeah.
Cool. Well, Natalia, tell me a little bit about your journey. Like, how did you start out? Did you always know what you wanted to be? How did you get where you're at today? And kind of what do you do? Tell us just a little bit about you.
Well, Lorie, that all depends how far we go, right? So if we go into all the way in my childhood, obviously I did not know what I'm going to be when I grow up. I grew up to be a concert pianist and completely changed the trajectory of my life per se, and then found my calling to be a healer. And that's really what lights me up. And that's the reason why I chose naturopathic medicine opposed to allopathic medicine, because I'm not a believer of prescribing drugs as much as I do have prescription rights. And then if I have a patient who is in fact need antibiotic, they have gnarly infection, certainly I would not be denying that help. But often, a lot of times we go into pharmaceuticals when they're really not needed. So
Mhm.
my goal always been to engage with my patients, especially with women. I had this conversation yesterday with my daughter, 16-year-old daughter, who says, Mom, I just realized I have such a great intuition. And I told her, sweetheart, every single woman, every girl from birth has fantastic intuition. We just forget we have it. We forget how to trust it. And that's one of the reasons I started this online platform, UnveilYou, helping women to reconnect with their own bodies by providing them with education, helping them to realize what are their bodies doing? Why are we
Mhm.
become so deaf to it? Why certain symptoms, they're not burden. They're actually your body communicating to you. It's just knowing how to receive those messages in most healing, positive, compassionate way.
So, did you said you didn't start out to be a naturopathic healer? How did you get on that path?
That's a very complicated story, actually. But ultimately, I always been driven by helping girls to feel more confident. because as any teenager, I struggled with confidence myself. I had body dysmorphia, but fortunately I was blessed enough to kind of snap out of it. I'm a religious person, so I don't really want to push my Christian beliefs on anyone, but I really believe that to me, my angels and, Lord spoke to me and got me out of this funk of, anorexia and trying to pretend to be someone I'm not. So learning to truly embrace my body and to embrace my face helped me to realize how much it frees the woman, and it frees you to build love and relationship with others. So if you don't have that love, like sincere, not selfish, but truly connective love to yourself, you're not capable of serving others. So really early, when I was maybe 18, 17, I realized this was something that I really needed to send, but I really didn't know how. So when we moved, my family immigrated to the United States. I was 22. I had different jobs, and by accident, I stumbled on working a makeup counter. So that was a way of helping girls to feel pretty, building this confidence, and at the same time helping them to fall in love with themselves. So that was the beginning of my transformation and this whole journey into dermatology, the healing of becoming physician. So essentially, it was my goal of helping girls to fight acne because it's such a prevalent disease. And, when you have pimples on the face, forget it. There's no confidence or a concealer or a foundation can ever cover that. Absolutely. And I, to this day, and I've been in aesthetic medicine for over 20 years, still did not find cure for acne, just to really understand how complex the disease is. And ultimately, it all goes back to where I started. It goes to love with yourself, relationship with yourself. If my patient is anxious, guess what? Her pimples will continue coming. It doesn't matter what drugs I'll prescribe her. It doesn't matter what topical treatments we'll do. All we can do in medicine is to fix current problems. So we're treating symptoms. But to prevent something, this is job of a patient or job of a woman. And it really comes from that internal healing. And there's no medicine can replace that.
Oh, I really like that thought that, like, as women, and it probably goes for more than dermatology, more than, like, what we're doing is just fixing the problems that are showing up rather than fixing the root cause, which is, like your self-esteem and your self-worth. If you look in the mirror and say, I am beautiful, nothing else in the whole wide world can convince you that you're not.
Right. Yes. It sounds so simple, and yet it's so difficult. It's like a muscle. You do have to exercise every day. And honestly, I'm not a big believer in positive affirmations either, because I call it a toxic positivity. You cannot fake that. You really have to go through the process. If a woman is suffering indeed with, we'll say, some kind of toxic talk that she does to herself every day, whatever the talk is, it's the first thing to kind of embrace it and accept it. Because we all have critic. We all have days when we don't like our image in the mirror. We all have days when we're beating ourselves up as a businesswoman by making a poor decision, losing money or losing that client. It's okay to have that. And I think part of healing is allow yourself to grieve and allow yourself to accept the fact that you're not perfect and you're never going to be.
That is so hard. I mean,
Yes.
you're saying it and all my stomach is like clenching into little fists. And I'm like, wait, admit that I'm not perfect. And I know I'm not perfect, but every time it hits me at a very visceral place where I'm like, oh gosh, I messed up. And it's the worst thing that happens. And
Yeah.
and admitting and coming out and saying that and living with it, kind of like accepting it and then moving forward, that's got to be one of the hardest things I would ever do.
Absolutely, Lorie. But that's a foundation of any fearless female. This is that courage of being disliked even by yourself. It's okay to have moments when you just like, you know what? I really messed up. But if that was my little sister, would I beat you up for it? No. I'll accept the fact, yeah, you kind of sucked. Excuse my French, but let's just pick up the pieces because you are fearless. You are a powerful woman. And we're going to go forward from here.
Oh, I
That's how
love that
healing
idea.
starts. Healing in the beginning is always painful.
Yeah, that's true. Natalya, what's the best investment you've made in yourself? As you kind of look over your journey, can you think of something where you're like, oh my gosh, I'm so glad I did that. I just wouldn't be who who I am today without that.
I can just say in the general umbrella in investing in my education. Even the fact that I went through medical school when I was still adult, I had infants, children when I got accepted into medical school. So looking back, it was an insane decision, both financially, time wise. We had my husband working night shifts in order to allow me to go to medical school during the day so he can be with our children to save money on daycare. I mean, to saying that we were broke back then, it's understatement. We were barely scraping by. So it was a very risky, crazy decision, but yet investing in my own education is the best thing I've ever done. And you can, the medical school investment is a very steep investment, but I would not be where I am now, having such a deep understanding of health, of anatomy, of biology, and having really great ability to explain things. It's one of the things my patients love about me. They always say, you explaining very complicated medical things in such an easy way. They want to bring me their blood work. They want to bring me their, things that the neurologist or oncologist says. And I'm not even the specialist. But again, knowing the medical literature, it's a wonderful gift that I got that I'm able to explain it in such easy, lean terms and analogies so the women engage with it and not be afraid of it. And I think that's a very important, the most important thing I want to say to our listeners, not to be afraid of symptoms, because the symptoms, whatever they are, as benign as a little headache in the morning into something more severe, like terrible pain, they're just body communicating to you. And your body is that beautiful selfless community of 30 trillion cells that want you to live forever. And your beautiful brain is capable of making changes in life to putting that community of cells in the most healing environment possible. And it cannot come from fear. So it always starts with accepting the symptom. And instead of Googling it, and the Google will definitely tell you you're dying. So let's start with that. So find a physician that resonates with you, that talks to you on the same level, on a human level. So then you become advocate of your own health.
Yeah, I really love that. I really resonate with that too, because like finance can have those same sort of scary connotations. I don't understand. They use big words. Finance is scary. It's hard. And that's what I do, is make that all those big, large, scary concepts something that's easy to understand. And then you can deal with it. You're like, not only are you fearlessly facing it, but you're like, I got this. Like, I understand what Natalya is teaching me about my body and the symptoms and the ideas, the things that I'm coming to her with. I not only understand it, but I can fix this. It gives you such a sense of empowerment to understand. I love that you do
Absolutely.
that for clients.
Absolutely. And I love what you do because, let's face it, I would say 99% of females are absolutely financially illiterate. We are so oblivious what's happening to our finances. And often we rely on men in our lives to do this for us. And yes, some women are very blessed. They have a great husband, brother, father who will look after them and then build that nest egg for them. But let's face it, there's majority of women end up on the other end of it when they trust a man and that man did not provide what they did. Not necessarily did not provide a paycheck, but essentially what they did with the money. So many Americans make a lot of money and it just blows my mind, still live paycheck to paycheck. And it just makes you wonder, like, how long are you planning to work?
Yeah. So in the same way that they kind of ignore that piece of their lives, they're also ignoring like these symptoms that they're seeing in their health because they're scared to find out what they really mean. Whereas if they would go and talk to you, you could help them understand what they're feeling and how to fix that.
Absolutely. The ultimate empowerment is the correct information. And unfortunately, we live in this world of abundant information. Thanks to ChatGPT, you can Google anything in 2 seconds. But guess what? 99% of it is a bunch of bogus. So it's still very important to find a good specialist. Again, a person that you do resonate with. And for women, I think it's really important to resonate with a person emotionally, to have the connection and to reconnect with your own intuition and just hear your little voice. Do you trust that person there?
Mm-hmm.
If you don't, walk away. There's no shame in that.
Yeah. Yeah. What is, Natalya, did you ever get any really bad advice, like the worst advice you can think of that someone gave you? And did you take the advice? Did you not take the advice? What
Well,
happened?
since we're on financial topic, that yes, I had a very bad business advice. I have invested a lot of money in a big promise of some marketing scheme, and I got completely scammed. And I think it's a very common story. And unfortunately, and I do have a really good friend now who is my marketing guru. And she also tells me it's almost like working against a very hard current, trying to help women who need that help in marketing. And they don't trust you because they probably, like me, got scammed for thousands of dollars and got nothing back from it, only just, smoking mirrors and blah, blah, something. So, yes, I would say for any woman who is starting her own business, be really careful who you trust. Ask several times, look it up. Again, we live in this era of abundant information. Google the person to see how old their website, what presence they have on social media, see if there's any other people that giving positive, negative reviews to this person. So do your research essentially. Not saying to be paranoid and don't trust anybody, but just be careful.
Yeah. I always like to check 2 or 3 sources just to find out, make sure that I'm getting good information and that these experts are telling me the same thing. And then I'll ask one expert the question that the other expert, told me, and see if I'm getting congruent advice. It's a really good way of doing things all around, for sure. For
Yes.
sure.
Yes. It's a little heartbreaking because ultimately my personality, I'm very a little bit naive, I guess. I just see good in people. I have to prove me that you're a bad person. I immediately assume that everybody's kind. We are here to support each other. I believe in sisterhood and one woman lifting another up. And I've been stabbed in the back by so many women just because of my trusting personality. And when I find myself in this situation, I know I always pray because, I'm religious. So I always ask God and I say, what are you trying to teach me? Are you trying to teach me to be heartless? And it's a very heartbreaking because I don't want to be. And then I just kind of meditate on this and I think, I think you just teaching me forgiveness. You're teaching me a little wisdom there too, but ultimately you look at other people. And I also believe that people who build their business on lies, on, deceiving others, they will never be happy with this money. So forgive, let them go, and, believe in karma, I guess.
Yeah. Good karma in the universe. I like that idea. And I think too, the idea of like being trusting, I don't think it's naive. I think that it is its strength. It's hard to be trusting with so much bad in the world. It's hard to believe in the good and to see the good in people. So that's a strong way to look at things.
Yes, indeed.
What about a situation that you could go back and look in along your journey and you could say, "Ooh, gosh, I would do that differently if I could go do it again." I have to know what I know now because you go back, you do the same thing the same way. But what if you knew now? Is there a situation you would go back and handle differently, and how?
Well, essentially, I think it's going back to the same conversation of, making poor choices, poor investments. When I first started my online business, I believed too many people promising me something, extraordinary. So essentially, it's the simplest thing. When people promise too much, when it sounds too good to be true, it's very, very likely not to be true. So certainly I wish I would be more careful and again, did that research and checked, ask other people, even Google the name essentially, but I didn't. It's just, sounded really good and, lots of promise and I was really hyped up. and believing in my mission and my word, and obviously wanted to get it out to people as much as possible. So I would certainly give myself that advice of not wasting money and then just being careful, not believing people who are promising too much.
So if you could high five yourself for one past financial decision that you were like, oh, I totally did that so great, what would that be?
That goes back to nearly 20 years ago when I just opened my skincare clinic. So that was shortly after when I got out of college. I was very broke and I opened clinic with no clients. Nobody knew about me here in Scottsdale, Arizona. Like, who is this woman? And I believe so strongly that women needed my services. Women needed healthy skin. Women needed that boost of confidence. So I borrowed $5,000 back then from my fiance, who's right now my husband. And when he gave me the money, he has no filter. He's from New York, so he always says exactly what he thinks. And he says, my best friends tell me not to give you money because they said you're going to blow it. So that $5,000, the first investment, it's something that fired me up and then really gave me that purpose to prove everybody who didn't believe in me and said, I'm going to blow it up, to see them that I can be successful. And I did. Right now we have very successful skincare clinic that's been in business for, like I said, nearly 20 years. I love what I do, but I really want to send my message of that confidence, healing, connection with the body to more women. And that's why I start building the online platform I call UnveilYou. So that's the project we are working on now, reaching out to larger communities and getting to the women who need to hear that word, to find that confidence, to find the connection.
Oh, I love that. So you built the in-person walk-in clinic first.
Yeah, brick and mortar. Yeah.
Yeah, but it helped you get your message out in a little way, but you're like, more women need this message. More women need to hear about this.
Absolutely. Well, because think about it, in a busy clinic, I have maybe 5-10 minutes with a patient. And most of the time I'm performing some kind of procedure and there's no time for connection. And often women who come in and they seek some kind of skincare treatment, either they want to inject Botox to address their wrinkles, they're not always doing it from the point of empowerment. They're doing it from the point of shame and fear. And that's one of the things that really breaks my heart, because unfortunately in beauty industry, the entire industry, it's built on those two very powerful emotions, shame and fear. So when a woman sees herself aging or seeing that, losing that youth and glow, because guess what? We all gonna age no matter what, right? But you can choose how you can age. You can choose to age on your own terms, knowing what supports your body. What it's not necessarily means you have to drink a green juice for the rest of your life or inject Botox every 3 months. You just do what makes you the most empowered and most confident and most you, essentially, as simple as that. And for that, I needed online platforms. So then the women at any point in any corner of earth can log in and see this information, just because I don't have time to sit there and talk to every woman face to face. It's just so much can be said, Lorie?
Yeah. Yeah. I like that too. I like that idea of like, you want to empower and help and grow more women. And this is your way of like helping, getting in front of more people saying, hey, you are beautiful. You know yourself, know your heart. I like that. I think that's neat. What scared you the most when you started out on your journey? Did anything scare you, and why? And does it still scare you?
Well, certainly in the beginning, when I opened as a Bloom, my skincare clinic, I was secretly scared, although I wasn't showing it to anybody, that I'll fail, because everybody believed I will, because, I'm a young female in my 20s, never had any business before. I don't have a business degree. And here I'm trying to be a business owner. So of course, everybody expect me to fail. Even my father, who has been an entrepreneur his whole life, although he doesn't admit, he says he believed in me from the day number one, because, I'm his daughter. but I do secretly know that he knew I'm going to fail, and yet I didn't. So yes, that fear was there. I don't necessarily afraid to fail. So I guess the little fear that's still in me, it's being irrelevant. So the message that I'm sending to women, that message of healing, the self-help and all that, unfortunately, there's again so much information. There are so many people who self-proclaimed wellness gurus and nutrition specialists with no really any degree or knowledge of anything. There is a little fear to be lost in that noise and not being able to reach women who need to hear that message. And it's very heartbreaking. And I don't know how to face it, except, every morning when I get up, I always remind myself there is a reason why I do this. I really believe that, God sent me on this planet to send the love and healing waves to another woman. And if there's women who need to hear it, that they will find me. So just trusting that and just letting it go.
Yeah, you do kind of have to. You have to be like, I'm putting everything I can out there, and then I'm going to have to let my message land in the hearts it needs to land in order to make a difference in their life. And I'm going to have to trust the universe, God, whatever you want to call it, to get that message to them. I like that. That's kind of neat. Yes. You're doing all you can do on your side.
Absolutely. Absolutely. And I think it's a very powerful shift. And I'm sure all our listeners can relate to that. In any moment of life, we have those things. When you're making a decision, you're moving forward, you're building something. And then you have those little voices of doubts, like, what if I'm doing something and nobody needs that? But then you just pause and think, what if there's only one person who needs to hear it? And then that voice will change something in this person, will help to heal them something. That alone is all worth it.
I truly believe that one person standing up, moving in the right direction makes a difference. One voice saying the right thing that somebody needs to hear makes a difference. So if you make a difference in just one person's life, like who knows what sort of ripple effects that'll have through the universe. So I love that.
Yeah. And especially for women, there's a lot of ripple effect of healing a woman. I really believe that purpose of woman on this planet is to teach the rest of people around her how to love. More so for mothers. If we have children, our job is to teach them how to love. They don't know how to do that. But then if they grow up knowing how to love, imagine the ripple effect.
Yeah, on their kids and their kids and their kids. Exactly. I love that. Oh, I love that. I'm going to put that on my vision board.
There you go.
The purpose of a mother is to teach others how to love. The purpose of a woman is to teach others how to love. I love that idea.
Yes, absolutely.
So, Natalya, did you face any unique challenges because you were a woman along your path?
I don't know if there was necessarily challenges. I mean, there's a lot of things. Trying to be a businesswoman was really difficult, and it still is. Now, as a physician, I travel the world. I teach and present on many different big stages, teaching other physicians. And being a woman and blonde and the cute one, sometimes it's very difficult because you're just not taken seriously. To being in a group of mainly male doctors. So when I travel abroad, majority of those countries are very patriarchal countries. So the question is always like, oh, where's your husband? Did your husband give you permission to travel and do this? So that's just always kind of like, now it makes me smile, but it used to be very frustrating. And I also had things especially when I was younger, when people just ask me, how old are you, 16? Like, oh, what do you know? And that was in my 30s. So nothing wrong with being youthful, especially now I'm almost 50. And I love the fact that I still look really young. But back then it was certainly a struggle. So it's very difficult to look like a Barbie and actually have a brain and build a brand and build your practice, trying to prove yourself to everyone. Even the fact that often when I introduce myself as a doctor, people always stumble and they say, well, you mean nurse? I said, no, I mean like a doctor, like a medical doctor. And then it's just, I don't know, somehow the doctor doesn't paint it on my face, perhaps. So yes. And then again, it's another little hiccup in my life, they just have to embrace it and let it go. It's just, that's what it is. Fortunately, I got old enough and wise enough not to be bothered by it, but it's still there.
Yeah. Yeah. So how did you combat that when they came at you and they're like, you don't know what you're talking about, or you're too young, or you're too pretty to know what you're talking about? Like, how did you set them straight?
Essentially depends on the situation, Lorie. So fortunately for me, now when I travel abroad, I'm also one of the scientific advisors, one of the biggest companies in the world. So having that name behind me, it certainly adds credibility. So when people see the titles and see who I represent, most of them just kind of swallow and let it go along. But when you're in the situation when people just essentially don't want to accept you for what you are, you just smile and walk away. And again, it's going back to our initial conversation, to that book, The Courage of Being Disliked. It's a muscle. You just have to exercise. You have to realize there are just sometimes you in a group of people, it doesn't matter how qualified you are, they just would not hear your voice. So unless you're in a situation when you work for corporate and you're just in a position to deliver something and then you're not being taken seriously, well, on that point, you can press some legal action, I guess. But if you are free woman with your own business, you don't have to do business with someone who doesn't respect you.
Oh, yeah, I like that idea. And a lot of women do own their own businesses, and they are able to choose to work with or not work with certain people. And that, I like that idea that you don't have to do business with people who don't respect you. Yeah, you don't have to choose that. Natalya, what is the thing you are most proud of?
I'm proud of myself, period. Again, going back to my younger years when I first moved to US, I had so much anxiety. I was afraid to leave our home because I didn't speak English. And when I have my moments of doubts now as an adult, I look back at that scared little girl and I'm thinking, oh gosh, I'm so proud of you. You know, not just learning English, but just being very confident and fluently speaking the language I thought I would never be able to speak, putting myself through medical school, achieving what I still have achieved. And unfortunately or fortunately, I'm still very much A-type personality and never satisfied with anything I do. So I do have to remind myself that, to always look back and appreciate what I already done, instead of constantly beating myself up and saying, that's not enough, that's not enough. But yeah.
I love that idea. I actually started a gratitude journal for that exact reason. I always set these goals and then I'd reach the goals, and rather than like being proud of myself, I'd set another goal. So I started a gratitude journal to like, I'm grateful that I, did this, or I'm so grateful that this happened to me. I like that idea, that look back at what you've done. Any advice for a young lady who's just starting down this path that you're so successful at, so that she can be successful like you?
I think the secret sauce to any endeavor and to any success, it's to expect hiccups, expect failures. And I know it's so cliche, and you can look at social media, everybody will tell you the path to success is never linear, blah, blah, blah. But that unshakable belief in your mission and then belief of who you are, me Inc., that should be your core and foundation to everything. And again, don't be afraid to doubt yourself. It's normal. It's healthy. It's good to have mistakes and then to have a good pity party about it, and then moving forward the next day. Or maybe you need a month of pity party. There's no specific time restraint or recipe that works for everybody. But then people who truly succeed in life, it's the people who just never give up. The people who make mistakes and they fall forward and they make another mistake and they keep going forward. That's the hardest advice and yet the simplest.
I read something that said something about fall down, or try, fail, learn, try again, fail better. Like
Yes.
it's just an iteration process of, you're always learning from those mistakes or those things that you do. And it is so important that we give ourselves a little bit of grace. I like the idea that you said we can have a pity party, because I think that we're always so busy picking ourselves up and learning that we forget to kind of stay in that moment for a minute and just feel sad that we
Yes.
made the mistake or we had that failure.
One thing that I really don't like in American society, that somehow we condition to always be happy. Even the fact that when your friend or stranger says, "How are you?" we expect you to say, "Great, good," or whatever positive adjective it will be for the day. But what if you're not? And then somehow it's improper to say somebody, even your closest friend, "You know what? Today is really bad for me." Even if you don't want to expand, just to say that. And it's okay to have negative emotions. If you say for the sad for the day, it doesn't mean you have depression. If you woke up nervous, it doesn't mean you have anxiety. None of that is a mental illness. It's just normal emotions of life. And the most important thing, if you like journaling, if you like the gratitude journal, that's fantastic. But you not always have to write positive things in this journal. It's okay to have a page to just pour it all out and say how much angry I am at this situation, blah, 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 whatever that is, because any emotion is a valid emotion. There are
Mhm.
difficult emotions and there's a wonderful uplifting emotions, but you can never expect to be in life always uplifted unless you're drugged up, and that I think is just kind of makes life kind of blah. Think about if you compare emotions to food. If you constantly eat piece of cake for breakfast, lunch, and dinner, you're going to be sick of it. Doesn't matter how great the cake is. So it's okay to have a little bitter tea once in a while, maybe a little something salty, a little bit marinade here and there. It just adds to the flavor of life. So
Mhm.
it's okay to have those little ups and downs, and don't expect always to have success. And
Mhm.
ultimately, you'll have success.
I actually really needed that message today. I've had a rough day and a rough week.
There you go. And so did I.
So, well, Natalya, thank you so much for spending some time chatting with us today and just sharing your experience. If I have a young lady who wants to ask you questions, pick your brain, or just find out more about what you do, how does she get a hold of you?
We are on social media, mainly on Instagram. That's the most active account. Instagram is UnveilYou.life. And our website, it's also the same. So it's www.unveilyou.life. And you can log in, you can create the account, start looking at some freebies we have there. There's lots of fun quizzes you can follow. And essentially, we just want to build this supportive community of women so we can allow someone to have a pity party one day and then celebrate others people's successes. All of that is just adds to energy and healing space that we also need.
I love that. And I love your mission. It sounds like your mission is to make sure that every woman loves herself.
Absolutely. Yes.
I love that. Well, thank you so much for being a fearless female and for spreading that voice throughout. I've really appreciated having this conversation.
Yes. Thank you, Lorie. Bye.